So I'm about to get up there and tell people a little bit about myself and my work and give some little poetic excerpts and basically all that stuff.
All right, let's welcome Candace.
All right.
Hey everybody. Good afternoon, class.
Good afternoon.
So my name is Candace Wiley, Candace G. Wiley. I'm one of those people with the middle initial. I'm from South Carolina, worked at the Clemson University there for the past several years. Before that, I taught gifted middle schoolers occasionally. I did some immersion teaching in South America. I did a Fulbright in Colombia. I did my MFA at the real USC, which is University of South Carolina. We don't know that. And for the past 6 years, I've been co-running, co-directing a nonprofit called The Watering Hole, which is a poetry organization that builds Harlem Renaissance spaces for poets of color in the South. We do that through retreats, workshops, readings, all kinds of cool things, and we've had authors like Terrence Hayes, Patricia Smith, Danetta Smith, Nikki Finney, Taima Jess, Evie Shockley, and so on and so on and so on. About a group of authors every year, so it's been great. My partner Monifa is there right now teaching some workshops in the prisons as well as some classrooms in Florence. So I'm here, which means the Watering Hole is also here. And shout out to everybody here, tribute to the dopeness, because I'm really floored by everybody's work and excited to be a part of this group. That being said, I am Candace G. Wiley, and I'm just gonna talk about my current project that I'm working on here. Igbo Landing. In May 1803, 75 Igbo from what would now be Nigeria were brought to Georgia illegally. At that time, transatlantic slave trade was illegal in Georgia and had been for about 5 years. When the ship reached Dunbar Creek in St. Simons Island, the Igbo took over the ship. The 3 white sailors were drowned. However, that happened, and the ship was run aground in the creek. So there's no real way to know why it was run aground, but I just imagine they were like, U-turn, and then couldn't get all the way U-turn. I don't know. History says that the 75 Igbo then disembarked, walked into the water singing, Orimiri omambala bu anyi bia, Orimiri omambala ka anyi ga ehina. The water spirit brought us, the water spirit will take us home. They sang that and they walked into the water. And so this is touted as one of America's first moment of resistance. The first Freedom March is what it's called. And the way I'm approaching this topic is I'm resisting this compulsive Western acceptance of Black death and the model of one life that begins here and ends here. And I'd like to search for more possibilities in the story other than the Black people revolted and they all died. I just wanted to show you the person who drew this illustration. So that's how Jonathan Nelson. So when we look at the WPA narratives, we see some accounts of this kind of ability. Here's one, the top one that says, they didn't like it here, so they marched right down to the river and right back to Africa. And then we know there are some complicated responses in these Federal Writers Project narratives because of the audience, because of the interviewer, right? These people who were formerly enslaved in the 1930s telling their story to white people who also lived with them in their communities. So there's a switch right there in that last line of the first paragraph where it says, but they weren't able to get there and they drowned, right? And I question that like change. You just said they marched back to Africa, not that they intended to. It said you did, and then you changed it. So I wonder about that change there, and then the similarities to this next excerpt on the bottom where it says, they were in a field, they didn't like it here, they turned themselves into buzzards and flew back to Africa, and there's no take back there. He just says they flew back to Africa and doesn't say, and they didn't make it. So my point here is, let's see, is to kind of point out the conflict between the written accounts and the oral accounts. And you know, these conflicts might occur just because of the difference in religious foundations, the difference in like the beliefs around the spirit, the body, the way life cycles, whatever. And like, I also want to show you a popular moment here that talks about this common act to jump overboard from a ship or to walk back into the water in this slave trade. T'Challa looks at Killmonger and says, maybe we can heal you if he's injured, right? And Killmonger says, and everybody loved this all over the ground. Killmonger says, why, so you can just lock me up? Nah, bury me in the ocean with my ancestors that jumped from ships because they knew death was better than bondage. And everyone was like, oh, should that in the theater. T'Challa should have said, Negro, we ain't got no prison industrial system, this is Wakanda, but he didn't say that. Whatever, that's not my point here. My point here is that, like, here's a reference to this thing that was so common, these historical accounts of quote unquote suicide. It happened often enough for me to wonder if this moment of transition or death, if it were perceived in a way that's different from the way that we perceive it. If we can use that space as a space to reimagine what those possibilities are. And here is, of course, Lemonade by Queen Bey, Beyonce, the song Love Drought that depicts this moment of, from, like, it seems to be Igbo landing to me. So I'm gonna skip all the way down. There we go. Okay, so what do I write about is the question. My creative position is that the story didn't end. It wasn't and they died. Rather than the glorious death, what if they lived? How would it happen? What would it look like? I'm invested in the oral narrative, the mythology, the belief system, what Killmonger calls the fairy tale. I'm a kid from Oakland believing in fairy tale. The fairy tale was Wakanda, which was his history. And I want to lean into that fairy tale and portray that oral narrative as capital H history, as the lived reality. So, I do that through flying Africans. These are flying Africans. Black aliens streak the Alpha Quadrant and birds of prey, drink blood wine on the eve of battle, pound right fist to sternum, lift hand to sky, chant, today is a good day to die. Why not the possibility that they were transported up onto the Klingon bird of prey and then taken to Kronos? I do this through flying Africans like buzzards, or crows, or deities. Curious fish nipped my calf, the cold water spirit patted the backs of our thighs with come hither hands. The song of return, the water spirit brought us. The water spirit will take us home, bounced off the glass to the sky. The spirit lifted the child against my chest. Her chin pecked my shoulders. Something like stubble scratched my neck. Hair spread down her cheek to her balled up fist. She peeked out a high chirp. I dropped her, but she fell up. Sprouted brown feathers and flew. I went after her, was right behind her before I realized that my neck had lengthened and coiled into hunched clavicles. I was racing to meet that line on the horizon with a flock of vultures birthed from the sea. And not just flying Africans, because in this kind of story, you also have to have a relation to the sea, swimming Africans. Saltwater creatures unliving and stripped towns along the Atlantic floor, slashed eyes, attuned to darkness, the old body, a tent of the spirit, dips, first elbow, alert arm hair, goosebumps, dried skin, falls away against the meniscus. Below, the forearms cross the barrier of worlds, enter that promised new body, shimmering brown hues lit a rainbow of undertones, the nipple buttons itself, a glimmering dark water ring, blue, white, red, black scales flick around hips, well practiced and praised, down, chained ankles melded together as one fin to remember the cost of dealing in devilry, fingers webbed and taloned to remember the path of survival, as quick as crossing to sleep, as twinkling eye, death, toothless, limping, has no sting, no victory, it only sees the splash. And so this is why we can't find bodies, we can't find evidence of the transatlantic slave trade, like the physical body, because they were transformed into mermaids. And like, if you look and you see vultures and no more bodies, like that's why, it's not a double, they were transformed. Once you have your eyes open, okay. So, I also, deal with, okay, maybe it works. I wanted to give a shout out with Herman and Gire for doing this print making etching. I don't know y'all's words. It's etched on copper, and the video was gonna speak for me so that I seem smart. And the video is not playing, it was playing a second ago. I'm gonna click one more time. Okay, there it is. I got to work with him on this. We not concrete, we mutate, appear, fly, act. We think, superhuman, we shoot like stars, fall like comets, hide among you, gear for a planetary takeover. The Obamas are of us. South Carolina knows this. We politic, shadow, specter, we specters, demanding bodies, we body, embody, nobody, somebody, we somebody, a man somebody, a woman somebody. So the work here, I really want to give a big shout out to the Tulsa Artists Fellowship. Thank you for having us all here and doing this work. Abby, Carolyn, Caroline, Cheyenne, Amanda, all you guys are awesome. So the work I want to do here is like researching some primary text, figuring out who my Cindy Mayweather type figure is, who is the central figure that's going to carry this narrative through. It's going to be written as poetry, have an overarching narrative, and then the structure of a musical, like musical theater, that will help us pursue this seemingly impossible dream of returning